Hello everyone, my name is Kushagra Singh and our first question is discuss the six key concepts defining an organization's design. First is work specialization. It means dividing the whole job into smaller tasks so each person does a specific things. So for example, also given in the slide, which is in a cafe, a person brews coffee and another takes orders and another washes dishes. So this tells how specialization can make people faster and better at their tasks. Second point is departmentalization. So this tells how jobs are grouped into departments and groups are made to perform functions, such as if people are in sales group, they have to perform the sales task. If they are in the finance group, they have to perform the finance task. Same for the product side also. This helps the grouping helps the people to share the similar work and information, which helps them to work together. Next point is authority, responsibility, and power. So, authority is the right to give orders and make decisions. Responsibility is a duty to complete tasks and be accountable. Power is the ability to influence others. So, this tells how a good design makes clear who has the authority and who is the responsible, so work gets done without any confusion. Fourth point is span of control. This tells how many employees a manager supervises directly. So a narrow span of few people means a manager can give more attention. A wide span with many people means management will give less supervision. So it would increase the cost or confusion. So the right span depends on the work and how experienced the team is. Next point is centralization versus decentralization. Fifth point is centralization and decentralization. So, centralization means top managers make most decisions, and decentralization means lower level managers and employees can decide. So, centralized firms can keep control at the top because their top managers make most decisions, and whereas decentralized firms are quicker to respond and empower employees because employees are taking directly parts in decisions, which empowers them and motivates them to work harder. Sixth point is formalization. This is how many rules, procedures, and written job descriptions the organization uses. High formalization means employees must follow strict rules. Low formalization allows more flexibility and creativity. So, in an organization which has high formalization, employees won't be that creative, but they would perform their task. But if it is low formalized, then they would perform their tasks also and be more flexible and perform more creativity. So overall, these six elements help shape how an organization works. Managers choose different combinations depending on the company's goal, objective, technologies, and the environment.
Hi, I'm Lai, and I will continue to answer questions 2. What are the concepts of traditional and contemporary organizational designs? Will these designs be influenced differently by management and the environment? For the first question, we will need to know what traditional and contemporary organizational design is. Traditional organizational design is structure that focus on stability, control, and efficiency. First, the simple structure. It has low departmentalization, a wide span of control, centralized authority, and little formalization. This type of structure is commonly found in small or start-up organizations because it is easy to manage and flexible in early stage. Next is the functional structure, where employees are grouped according to similar job functions such as marketing, finance, and operations. This structure promotes specializations, improves efficiency, and allows employees to develop expertise in their specific areas. Lastly, the divisional structure. It is made up of separate business units or divisions, usually based on products, services, or locations. Its division has limited autonomy, which helps improve focus, accountability, and performance evaluation. Overall, traditional organizational designs are best suited for stable environments where efficiency and predictability are important. Then, what is contemporary organizational design? It is structure that emphasizes flexibility, collaboration, and adaptability in response to dynamic environments. First, team-based structures. It organizes the entire organization around work teams rather than traditional departments. This encourages collaboration, faster decision making, and shared responsibility. Next is the matrix project structure. In matrix structure, employees from different functional areas are assigned to projects and returned to their departments once the project is completed. This structure promotes knowledge sharing and cross-functional cooperation. Then the boundaryless structure. It reduces and removes horizontal, vertical, and axial boundaries. This includes virtual and network organizations, which allow greater flexibility and faster information flow. Finally, the learning structure. It is the structure that focuses on continuous learning. Employees are encouraged to acquire, share, and apply new knowledge. This helps organizations adapt quickly, innovate, and remain competitive in changing environments. Overall, contemporary designs are more organic and suitable for organizations facing uncertainty and rapid change. And for the second question, will these designs be influenced differently by management and the environment? So, from a management influence perspective, managers who prioritize control, efficiency, and predictability are more likely to choose traditional organizational designs. On the other hand, managers who emphasize innovations, continuous learning, and employees' empowerment tend to prefer contemporary organizational designs. From an environmental influence perspective, stable environments encourage traditional structures because standardized processes help improve efficiency. However, dynamic and uncertain environments require contemporary organizational designs. These designs support flexibility, rapid decision-making, and continuous learning, which are essential for organizations to respond effectively to change. In conclusion, organizational structure is shaped by both managerial philosophy and environmental conditions.
Now, let's discuss about question 7.3, which is compared to the strengths and weaknesses of a functional structure, what are the strengths and weaknesses of a simple structure? Let's talk about simple structure. A simple structure refers to an organizational framework that features low departmentalization, broad spans of control, centralized authority with one individual, and minimal formalization. This structure is typically seen in smaller organizations and new businesses. One of the primary advantages of a simple structure is the speed of decision making, as authority resides in a single person. It is also quite adaptable, enabling the organization to quickly react to environmental changes. Furthermore, it is cost-effective to operate due to fewer managerial layers and low administrative expenses. Accountability is also distinctly outlined, as employees are aware of who is accountable for decisions and their results. On the other hand, the simple structure has its drawbacks. As the organization expands, it becomes less effective. Decision making may become sluggish because of information overload at the top level, and the organization can become too reliant on a single individual. This situation poses a risk, especially if that person is absent or makes poor choices. A prime example of a simple structure would be a small family-run a business or a startup in which the owner closely oversees the workforce and manages most operations. Now, let's talk about functional structure. A functional structure organizes employees according to similar or related job specializations, such as marketing, finance, operations, and human resources. The strengths of a functional structure come mainly from work specialization. By grouping people with similar skills together, the organization can achieve economics of scale, reduce duplication of people and equipment, and improve overall efficiency. Employees can also develop deeper expertise in their functional areas, which improves performance. Moreover, this structure is especially suitable for organizations that have grown larger and require more formalized operations. However, functional structures also have weaknesses, such as managers may become too focused on their own departments and lose sight of the organization's overall goals. Functional specialists can become insulated, meaning they have limited interaction with other departments. As a result, coordination and communication across functions may be weak. An example of a functional structure is a medium to large organization where departments operate separately but work together to achieve organizational objectives.
Good day everyone. Now we move on to the next question. Contrast the design of a boundaryless organization and a structureless organization. Explain the points of contrast with examples. So before we look at the contrast, let me do a short introduction about these two modern approaches to organizational design. A boundaryless organization is one whose design is not defined by or limited to the vertical or horizontal boundaries is imposed by a predefined structure. Think of it as making the walls of the company transparent. While a structureless organization is more radical design that has no formal hierarchy or titles, relying entirely on the staff themselves, on the self-management. So both of the models are designed for the agility and involve a significant decentralization of power, but they differ fundamentally in how they handle the hierarchy and the silos. So our first point of contrast is the chain of command. A boundaryless organization typically maintains a flattened leadership hierarchy. For example, at General Electric (GE), managers still exist, but lower level workers can overturn a manager's decision through walkout or town meetings. So this ensures that the best ideas rise to the top regardless of the rank. On the other hand, a structureless organization has eliminated the leadership hierarchy by removing all formal supervision. So at Morningstar, a large tomato processor, there are no managers. Instead, employees must negotiate their work, goals, and responsibilities directly with their peers, which is their co-workers, rather than reporting to a boss. The second point is how these organizations handle department silos. In a boundaryless organization, different departments exist but work as one. For instance, at Starbucks, baristas, roasters, and the designers collaborate and share feedback through internal digital platforms. This allows them to launch successful products like the Frappuccino by breaking down the traditional functional walls. Meanwhile, in a structureless organization, employees have no permanent department at all. At video game company Valve, employees famously have desks on wheels. If a project needs their skills, they literally roll their desk over to join that team, allowing the workforce to remain fluid and project focused. So our final contrast is accountability. The boundaryless model using a coach manager model where the accountability is vertical but supportive. At Starbucks, a store manager doesn't just give orders. Their job is to remove obstacles from the baristas so they can succeed. On the other hand, the structureless model using a peer review model where co-workers decide if an employee did a good job or not. Valve applies a stack ranking system. Every year, employees rank their peers based on the technical skills, productivity, and team playing abilities.
Question 7.5. Contrast mechanistic and organic organization. Mechanistic organization have a rigid and highly structured design. They feature high specialization, a clear division of labor, strict rules, and also procedures, centralized decision making at the top management levels. Communication follows a formal vertical chain of command, and also the authority is clearly defined. This type of organization is most effective in stable and also predictable environments where efficiency, control, and also consistency are super important. In contrast, organic organizations are also flexible and adaptable. They have low formalization, decentralized decision making, and also broader job roles that promote employees' involvement and also creativity. Communication flows horizontally and informally, and authority is based more on expertise than on position. Organic structures work best in dynamic and uncertain environments where innovation, quick response, and knowledge sharing are essential.
My name is Yash and I will be talking about case application 1, turbulence at United Air. We have summarized this case into 10 points and I will be explaining the first 5 points of this case. In March 2017, two teenagers were wearing leggings on their flight in United Airlines and they were kicked out as they were travelling on employee travel perk passes which have a more strict dress code. United Airlines defended this decision via Twitter, stating that these rules apply specifically to pass riders and not regular customers. This is because the airline wants to present themselves in a more positive way. In April 2017, Dr. Dao, a doctor who needed to see his patients the following morning, was removed from his flight as it was already full, but 4 United Airlines employees needed to board the flight at the last minute to staff another flight. Dr. Dao declined to leave and was then forcibly removed from the plane by airport security officers, leading to him suffering a broken nose and a concussion. Dr. Dao later filed a lawsuit which led to 2 of the airport security officers to be fired.
Next question. Evaluate how United Airlines handled each of these incidents. Do you think that United Airlines was within its power to respond the way its employees did? Why or why not? First and foremost, the incidents handled is highly formalized and rule-driven organizational structure, where employees follow company policies rigidly with no tolerance and self-judgment. This evaluation is proven by incidents that involve a passenger being forcibly removed from an overbooked flight after refusing to give up his seat. Instead of allowing frontline employees to use discretions such as offering greater compensation or seeking alternative voluntary solutions, employees adhere rigidly to company procedures for overbooking and passenger removal. This strict enforcement escalates the situation into a physical confrontation, causing severe reputational damage to the airline. Another incident discussed in the case is about soon-to-wed couple who were removed from a flight because employees believed their behavior violated United policies. Despite the couple explaining that they were joking and celebrating an upcoming wedding, employees chose to strictly enforce conduct rules rather than exercise judgment or empathy. This rigid response suggests that employees felt constrained by formal rules and feared consequences for diverting from them, even when flexibility could have resolved the situation calmly. Next question. Was United Airlines within its power to respond that way? In my opinion, it's a yes. United Airlines was within its organizational authority to respond as it did because employees acted in accordance with established rules, procedures, and managerial expectations. The organizational design clearly prioritized rule compliance, leaving little room for individual judgment. However, while the actions were structurally justified, they were ineffective in their management. The airline industry is a highly dynamic, customer-facing environment, where non-routine situations are common. According to Chapter 7, such environments are better served by more organic structures that allow flexibility, decentralization, and employee empowerment. So for the conclusion, the incidents involving the forcibly remove a passenger and the soon-to-wed couple illustrate the disadvantage of excessive formalization and a rule-driven organizational structure. Although United's employees acted within their authority, the rigid handling of this situation made customer experience worse and harmed the company's public image. The case shows the need for organizations to balance rules with judgment, especially in service industry where human interaction is essential.
Moving on to the next question, which is how would you describe United Airlines' view of formalization? Do you think it's appropriate? So, United Airlines' view of formalization is that rules and written procedures should be strictly followed. The company shows a strong preference for clear and detailed policies about who can travel on perk passes, dress codes, seating rules, and how to handle overbooked flights, and expects employees to enforce those rules exactly. Frontline staff to have little discretion or flexibility to make exceptions for individual situations. I don't think that level of rigid formalization is fully appropriate. Some rules are necessary for safety, legal protection, and fair treatment of passengers. So, formalization is useful in those areas. However, the incident described passengers denied boarding for clothing, a doctor forcibly removed a couple, and a pet handled harshly show that excessive strictness and a lack of employee judgment caused big customer service failures and damage to the airline's reputation. A better approach would keep clear rules for safety and legal matters, but give employees more training and authority to use common sense and compassion in unusual cases. In short, formalization is important, but United needed more employee flexibility and customer centered discretion.
Now, I will be answering question 7-13. Using information from the chapter about the contingency factors that favor either the mechanistic or the organic model of organizational design, what do you think United Airlines organizational structure should resemble? Be sure to think about this in terms of efficiency and effectiveness. So we have actually learned about these two models in chapter 7. In short, the mechanistic structure is a more rigid system that follows the rules in a very rigid manner, and the organic model has a little more flexibility, especially when dealing with customer needs. My answer for this question, I believe United Airlines organizational structure should be more organic, especially for the employees who interact directly with customers. In 2017 to 2018, United Airlines used more of a mechanistic structure as seen by the strict rule-focused structure. This was of course sometimes good for efficiency, but it gave employees very little flexibility. This led to workers enforcing rules rigidly, even in situations that required judgment. This led to many issues, as we saw in the case summary. Because the airline industry is fast-changing and unpredictable, with frequent customer interaction, United Airlines would be more effective with a more organic structure. Employees should be able to use judgment, adapt to customer needs, and also make effective decisions. However, I believe that United Airlines can still use their mechanistic structure in certain areas where it is useful for efficiency. However, they should apply an organic structure for roles that require customer interaction so that they can adapt to these customer needs.
Now we move on to question 7.14. The United Airlines case shows us the danger of a mechanistic, rule-following bureaucracy. In multiple incidents, employees prioritize rigid protocols over human judgment, leading to public relations nightmares. To prevent this in the future, we recommend 3 specific structural enhancements. Firstly, United must implement the decentralization of decision-making. Currently, the frontline staff appear afraid to deviate from the manual for fear of termination. We suggest providing the frontline employees with a discretionary budget. This allows them to solve the problems like offering travel vouchers to volunteers on the spot without waiting for supervisors' approval. Secondly, United must prevent over-formalization. High formalization works for technical safety, but it is inappropriate for complex customer interactions. So we propose simplifying the rules book by replacing the restrictive complex rules with guiding principles. This structural change gives employees the permission to use the common sense and empathy when the rigid rules conflict with a customer dignity or safety. So finally, we suggest implementing reverse feedback. Most bureaucracies only use top-down communications, which leaves managers blind to operational flaws. So we recommend a platform where the frontline staff can immediately flag the severe rules to management. So this creates a boundaryless flow of information, ensuring that bad policies are identified and fixed before they lead to another international outcry. So by fixing these structures, so we empower the employees to be both responsible and ethical. Thank you.
Employees' behavior reflects an organization's ethical stance. In United Airlines case, employees strictly follow rules while ignoring passengers' dignity and emotions, showing a focus on efficiency and compliance rather than the empathy and moral judgment. And management can encourage more ethical behavior by clarifying that rules exist to serve customers, and giving frontline staff limits discretions and reward ethical actions, not just rule compliance, while ethics are supported in practice, and employees are more likely to act responsibly and humanly.
The next case, I will be summarizing the case in 10 points. Point number 1 is the vision, exploring the unknown for the good of humanity. To start, we need to understand NASA's why. They are driven by a massive goal, which is to reach for new heights and reveal the unknown. This is not just a slogan, it guides every decision they make. Point number 2 is the mission, advancing science and protecting the Earth. Supporting that vision is their mission to drive advance in aeronautic and space exploration, but it goes beyond the space. They also act as stewards of the Earth, using their data to better understand our own planet. Point number 3 is past success, which includes the moon landing, the Hubble telescope, and the Space Shuttle program. NASA has an unmatched legacy, from Apollo putting men on the moon 6 times to the Hubble telescope changing how we see the universe. They have proven their technological dominance time and again. Point number 4 is the reality. High cost plus high danger means there is no room for error. However, they operate in an unforgiving environment. Equipment costs millions of dollars, and human lives are constantly on the line. Unlike a normal business, NASA cannot afford a single mistake. Point number 5 is the pivot. When the Space Shuttle program ended in 2011, it caused an identity crisis. For a while, the agency struggled with uncertainty. Without a clear vehicle or destination, employees and managers alike were unsure about the agency's future purpose. Moving on, point number 6 is the future. Reaching an astronaut by 2025 and Mars by 2013. Leadership has since charted a bold new trajectory. They have set 2 massive milestones, capturing an astronaut in the near future and the ultimate prize, which is putting humans on Mars by the year 2013. Point number 7 covers their key asset. It is not the rocket, it is the people. NASA realized that fuel and steel are not their most important resource. Their knowledge is. Success depends entirely on managing the collective talent and creativity of their workforce. Point number 8 is the obstacle. Rocket science is incredibly complex. Mars is 140 million miles away. Managing the technical data for that journey while juggling the demand of the government and diverse stakeholders create a level of organizational complexity that is difficult to manage. Point number 9 is digital tools, such as searchable libraries and data tagging. To handle this information, NASA uses sophisticated digital system. They have built searchable video portal and taxonomies to ensure that technical data from past missions is easy to find. And the last point is human connection. Focus on expert workshop and lesson learned. They know that everything can be written down, so they use expert network and social forum to ensure that the lesson from the past are passed down to the new teams, preventing knowledge loss.
Now, let's discuss regarding question 716 case application 2, which is, would you call NASA a learning organization? Why or why not? Yes, NASA can be considered a learning organization. The case shows that NASA places strong emphasis on creating, managing, and sharing knowledge to support its highly complex and risky missions. Over the years, NASA has achieved major accomplishments such as the Apollo moon landings, the Space Shuttle program, and the successful test flight of Orion, all of which reflect continuous learning and the application of accumulated knowledge from the past projects. Secondly, the case also highlights that NASA actively encourages knowledge sharing across project teams and the entire organization. It uses various knowledge sharing activities such as collaboration tools, searchable case studies, lesson learned expert networks, workshops, and forums. By designing an organizational structure that supports learning and knowledge exchange, NASA is able to adapt, innovate, and improve its capabilities. These practices demonstrate that NASA learns from experience and continuously develops new knowledge, which are key characteristics of a learning organization.
Question 717. In what ways is NASA's environment is complex? NASA's environment is very complex due to several related factors. First is technical complexity is very high because NASA work with aerospace engineering, space exploration, and also new technologies where even small mistakes can result in mission failure or loss of life. This needs precise coordination of a lot of scientific and technical knowledge. The second thing is organizational and also project complexity arises because NASA manages multiple large projects at one same time, like space missions, research programs, and also technological development. Each project involves teams from different areas, long timeliness, and also lot of uncertainty. Third, human and knowledge complexity is also significant. NASA depends on skilled experts from various fields. The challenge is capturing, sharing, and also keeping knowledge across teams and generation location, especially as project change or employees retire. The fourth is environmental and also stakeholder complexity impact NASA's. It has to respond to changing government's policies, budget limits, public expectations, international partnership, and also political oversight, all this while aiming for a mission success. Finally, change and uncertainty are constant. Fast technological advances, shifting mission goals, and also unexpected risk makes NASA's environment dynamic and also hard to manage.
Moving on to the question 718, how does complexity change the structural choice? The answer is that high complexity requires organic structure which focus on decentralization and integration. To explain this, we have to look at the management theory. A traditional mechanistic structure is rigid and hierarchical, great for a factory but terrible for innovation. NASA operates in an environment of extreme complexity. If they rely on a rigid hierarchy, information will move too slowly up the chain of command. Therefore, they must adopt an organic structure. This works in two ways. First, decentralization. Decision-making power is pushed down to the engineers and scientists on the ground. When a technical problem arises, the person with the expertise solve it immediately. They don't wait for the manager's permission. Second is integration. NASA uses cross-functional teams that cut across departments. This ensures that a propulsion engineer is talking to a software engineer every day, preventing silos where critical information might get trapped. Finally, question 718 asks for suggestion for NASA managers to help them become a true learning organization. Based on Exhibit 712 in the textbooks, I have 4 key recommendations covering design, information, leadership, and culture. Let's break this down because each one is critical for NASA's future. First, regarding organizational design, we recommend that NASA continues to remove boundaries. They should move towards a boundaryless design where teams can form and dissolve based on the project needs, rather than being stuck in rigid department. Second is information sharing. In a learning organization, information must be open, timely, and accurate. Holding data to gain power is toxic. NASA manager must ensure that lessons learned are accessible to everyone instantly. Third is leadership. The role of manager must shift. They shouldn't be controllers who dictate every move. Instead, they must be facilitators and supporters whose main job is to remove obstacles so their team can innovate. And fourth, and perhaps the most important, is culture. NASA must foster a strong sense of community and trust. In high-stakes engineering, fear is dangerous. If employees are afraid to admit mistakes, they hide them, which leads to disaster. A true learning culture rewards risk-taking and views failure as a necessary step towards success. In conclusion, success for NASA depends on effective knowledge management. This case study teaches us a vital lesson for any modern business. Technology alone is not enough. You can have the best rocket in the world, but if your structure is too rigid or your culture discourages sharing, you will fail. By capturing knowledge and fostering a flexible, organic structure, NASA ensures that the wisdom of the past fuels the mission of the future. Thank you very much for listening. Bye.